path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. It's been a whirlwind week for me already. Spent the first 2 days in Nashville in a conference, and I'm going to share some things from that. It was more business related to me, but I think I picked up some things that I do want to share with my listeners. Actually, when you're hearing this, we will have already had our first public Medicare 101 Welcome to Medicare workshop at the Gables here in Cookeville, the Gables Apartments there across from the fairgrounds. And we will be back there again the same Thursday the 19th of March. That's one of the things I love about March is like as long as it's not leap year, you can look at your calendar in February and know what day of the week a certain date's going to be because it'll be exactly the same as whatever February is. And as they post on Facebook, sometimes you say, I was today years old when I realized that. This is so funny. I don't know, because I think I was an adult before I realized it, and then you forget about it, and then leap year comes around and throws you off. But it's a nice, easy thing there to know that the day in March will be the same as the day in February. So one of the things that came up in this conference, like I said, it was more geared to, building my business. But one of the things that came up, and you've probably heard me talk about, adding a cancer plan to your health plan or your Medicare. And the thing is, of course, the younger you are when you get those plans, the less they cost. So that's always a plus. I deal with a lot of people when they're going on Medicare, so they're already in their 60s, or maybe already over 65 and are just looking to maybe make a change, or they're new to the area and they have to change plans. And whoever their agent was didn't share with them what I share with my clients, and so they don't have all that coverage. But one of the things that hit me that I hadn't been thinking about, we have the plans, our critical illness plans, sometimes called cancer, heart attack, stroke. In the insurance business, just like the military, we like to shorten everything. We like acronyms, so we call those CHAS. And it's just the initials of cancer, heart attack, stroke. I always recommend a cancer plan with any Medicare plan. That's a given, and one of the reasons on that is if you are diagnosed with cancer, you'll find 53% of the expenses because of that crappy diagnosis is not medical. It's not covered by your health insurance. It may be travel. It may be seeing a doctor for a second opinion. It may be getting a treatment that your insurance or Medicare still considers experimental. But, if it's life or death, you're going to figure out a way to pay for something like that, and those things usually aren't going to be cheap. So that's where a cancer plan can come in very handy to cover those costs. So I've always been a firm believer in adding a cancer plan to people that are getting any kind of Medicare plan, whether it's a Medicare supplement or the Medicare Advantage. But I didn't see a lot of value in adding the heart attack and stroke portion, especially if they have a Medicare. If you have a Medicare supplement, your health care is going to be covered. Your hospitalization is going to be covered. But with cancer, you're apt to, with a cancer plan, you're apt to have more of those non-medical costs because it's usually going to be an ongoing treatment. A heart attack or stroke could probably be a little more, but a heart attack, yes, you're probably going to have some heart therapy, physical therapy after that heart attack for part of your recovery. Again, you probably have a copay for that. It's not going to be as catastrophic expense to someone on Medicare as someone under 65, or at least that's been my opinion. What kind of the light bulb kind of went off this week that I hadn't thought about it, and I've talked about it when I talk about cancer also, is with cancer, there's some of the drugs that are very expensive. Some of them are not covered by your insurance or your Part D. There's ones that are like anti-nausea pills that they can be very expensive. They're covered, but they're still expensive. And so that goes along, when you have this chemotherapy. So some of those drugs may or may not be covered, or they'll fall under your Part D. And as we all know right now, Part D has a maximum out of pocket. But with the cancer drugs expenses, you're going to hit that maximum out of pocket on Part D. And currently this year, that's $2,100. So for a couple dollars, a day, $1 a day, or $2 a day, you've got coverage that will cover that $2,100 and a lot of those other expenses. That can come in really handy. I didn't think about it when it comes to heart attack or stroke. I deal with these drugs all the time. I recommend my clients that are prescribed these drugs to maybe contact the Canadian Med Store and get them at a lower cost, because you're going to have that big deductible at the beginning of the year, and you can get a 3-month supply for about half of what that deductible is. So it may make sense, especially if you're on a zero premium plan with a high deductible, it may make sense to just go ahead and contact my friends there at the Canadian Med Store. I'm sure Amber will be happy to help you on that. And you can get a 3-month supply for about half of what that, or less of what that deductible is going to run you, because it's going to be over $600. I mean, most plans have a $615 deductible for the drugs. So I thought about that on the cancer, but I wasn't thinking about my clients that maybe have a heart attack or stroke. They're going to have to get Eliquis or Xarelto, the different blood thinners that, again, you're going to be spending about $600 just to meet the deductible, and then you're going to spend probably $300 for a 3-month supply. So that 3-month supply, and maybe with a few other prescriptions, you're going to hit that $2,100 out of pocket. So we can help protect you against that exposure before it happens. So a little bit of cancer, a little bit heart attack coverage, heart attack or stroke coverage along with that cancer plan can be very useful and very affordable. Now, generally, in the way those plans work, if you're getting the cancer, if you're adding heart attack and stroke coverage to a cancer plan, then your heart attack and stroke coverage can't be more than the cancer coverage, or it can be less. Say you have $20,000 of cancer, but I probably only just need $5,000 for heart attack or stroke, because that'll cover me for a couple years of that max out of pocket on my drugs. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. So we can keep that cost down. There are other people who go, well, there's a lot of heart attack, there's a lot of heart issues in my family, and there's also cancer history in my family. I want them to be the same. I want $20,000 or $30,000 of both. Now, yes, that's going to be more expensive. And I always tell people, it's like, I do work, for commission. So far be it from me to tell you that you don't need more insurance. But I'm not going to break your bank. But it's, somebody made a comment I'm trying to think if I can phrase it right, was don't think with their pocket or something like that. And what it is, we look at something and go, oh, they can't afford that. I'm not going to offer them that. And then something catastrophic happens and they say, why didn't you offer me this? So, want to make sure that my clients, my listeners too. If you are not my client, I'd love you to be my client. So hopefully some of what I'm putting out here makes sense to you. And so you want to investigate further, give us a call. We'll see what we can do. You don't have to, get your health insurance from us. You could just say, hey, you talked about that critical illness, that CHAS plan. I want to know more about that. You can be on your employer insurance and still have these other plans. I sell against the duck. I actually used to sell for the duck. So I understand how some of those plans that come from your employer group. I've talked to people about cancer plans, and they go, oh, I've got this plan. I got it at work. And I say, that's a great plan. You're not probably paying very much for it. I would far be it from me to ever say cancel that. But you might want something else too. And the reason I say that, the plan that I'm describing, I call it a treatment plan. And what I propose to my listeners or my clients is a lump sum cancer plan. And again, because most of the time we're working with our Medicare clients. And so it really is just kind of to cover those annual max out of pockets. If you're on a Medicare Advantage, you're going to have, $3,000 to $10,000, depending on the plan you have, maximum out of pocket. Well, I haven't met anybody yet that got diagnosed with cancer in January and they were all done with treatments by the end of December. And so they only had to worry about that max out of pocket 1 year. So a cancer diagnosis or a heart attack or stroke can put you where you're hitting that max out of pocket a couple years in a row. And if you got that coverage from a supplemental plan that will cover that, you're paying a lot less. Those monthly premiums are not going to come anywhere close to how much you're saving on your health care. So that's the part we get And again, it's the same thing with your car insurance. How much coverage do you want? What deductible do you want on your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance? You want to keep your monthly costs as low as possible, but you also don't want to get hit with a big bill later. So you will choose your plan accordingly. And we do the same thing with health insurance and supplemental for health insurance. So those are some things there. As I mentioned, if you want to know about the Chavs, like I said, they work with your employer plans. Oh, and I realized I went down a different rabbit hole there. The treatment plans when it comes to cancer, they will pay so much, for your cancer surgery. They'll pay for so much for a radiation treatment or a chemo treatment. But they basically only pay if you're having those treatments. Whereas the lump sum plan, I'm sorry, I have to tell you, you have been diagnosed with colon cancer. And you take that paper and you come to us and we help you submit that to the insurance company. And the insurance company says, oh, we're so sorry to hear that. Here's your $20,000 check. And I have clients that have actually been able to do that. So it does happen. Nobody wants to hear the ugly C word, but we do have solutions when that terrible diagnosis happens. Problem is, if you got the diagnosis and then you come to me, I can't really help you. I might be able to help you, change your health insurance that might cover you a little bit better going forward. But again, most insurance plans, we can't do anything for you once you've been diagnosed with something. That pre-existing condition knocks out a lot of things. Now, it doesn't knock out if you have the healthcare marketplace. It doesn't knock you out from having Medicare or a Medicare Advantage. It doesn't knock you out from being able to get employer coverage. Those all have to be guaranteed issue. But there are other plans out there that do not cover pre-existing condition. Now, we've got some plans that will cover you and just not cover your pre-existing condition, but they'll cover you for everything else. So there are options. Just because you have a pre-existing condition doesn't mean you can't get coverage, but we do need to look at what coverage we can get for you. And we do a lot of that. There's a lot of times, and this year's been, especially with people losing, not qualifying for the tax credits because they're making too much money now. But, one of the members of a marriage, one of the spouses, has a health condition that the only thing they can do is go through the marketplace, and they're going to have to pay that big monthly premium just to have that health coverage. But their spouse, who's relatively healthy, doesn't have to spend all that. So, you don't have to spend $4,000 for both of you to have insurance, but maybe you do have to spend $2,000, $1,800, $2,000 a month for the spouse with the pre-existing condition has that more robust coverage. We've got plans out that will cover quite a bit, and you'll have a lot less out of pocket. Or, hey, if you qualify for a zero premium health plan, we've got plans that can help you cover those big deductibles. So we're up on the break here, and I'll maybe talk a little bit more after the break on that. And I know I've covered that recently, but we'll be right back.
Dreams are built one home at a time, and you can help make them real. Join Upper Cumberland Habitat for Humanity for the Putnam County Dream Builders Luncheon, March 24th at Live Church in Cookeville. Social hour starts at 11:30, lunch at noon. Tickets are just $25, or become a table host for $400 and make an even bigger impact. Join the Dream Builders Luncheon and support affordable housing in our community. Reserve your seat now at uchabitat.org.
Hi, this is James Green, your local Twin Lakes security consultant. When you lock up at night, do you wonder how safe your business really is? We can help take the worry away with the latest security technology, including video surveillance, fire monitoring, remote access, and more. And while we protect hundreds of businesses in the Upper Cumberland, we also offer custom solutions that fit your unique situation, all backed by a local friendly service team. Contact us today for a free, no-obligation review. Twin Lakes, security made simple.
Twin Lakes Security, TN Cert C-0026.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, welcome back. I don't know who the commercials were, but please help those people out. They help keep this radio station on the air, as do I. I am a paid advertiser here. That's how I get to talk to you every week, is paying that advertising. And so we do hope that you will come and do business with us. One of the things on that, I realize, and I think people, if you've listened to my show for a while, you probably get a pretty good feeling of yes, I'm in the business of insurance to earn a living. I also help a lot of people. And so it does kind of become a ministry of sorts, but it's like you think about, your ministerial staff at your church, the worship leader, the pastor, the church secretary, they're serving, but they also have to earn a living, so they are paid. Well, that's kind of how I am with the insurance business. I got in it because I needed to earn a living and found out it was something I could do, and I found out I could help people. And it's funny, I go to, like I said, I went to this workshop this week that was, it's geared to, I was like, hey, how can I grow my business? How can I be, more profitable? Yes, that was the theme of it, but the underlying thing was, it was even brought up in one of the meetings. It's like, hey, I know you got in this business to make money, but you found out that you're able to help a lot of people, and that's why you're still here. And I really think that's true, because hey, I've sold cars. It's like, hey, I made good money at it, helped people with transportation, but it wasn't fulfilling, I guess. And again, anything that's if you're in any kind of sales, in sales we say, it's feast or famine. It's like sometimes you're just swamped, and that's like one of my favorite saying is, from October to December I'm really busy. The rest of the year I have to work, and that's one of the reasons why I do this radio show is I have to keep putting. As we say in the sales business, I got to keep feeding my funnel. People come in, people listen to me, they see my advertising. Some people meet with me but don't buy when we first talk. But I've got a lot of clients that I've talked to 10 years ago, and then they go, hey, you talked to me when I was doing this. And it's actually one of the things I was telling the story of one of my most recent clients stems all the way back to the first assistant that I hired. And it had to do with family member of that assistant becoming a client, and then referring a coworker, and then that coworker suggesting their husband talk to me. And then just recently I helped that husband's brother. So that's 4 clients that I have, and they're all Medicare, that were resulted from an employee of mine saying, hey, help my folks. and I've got a lot of people like that. I had somebody reach out to me last week and said, hey, you helped me back in 2020 and I'm going to need insurance again, because I don't have that employer anymore. I think that was the case. Or no, actually, sadly, it wasn't employer, it was divorce. But it was somebody that I helped, and they appreciated my help 5 years ago, so they're back. So I feel good that people know that I do take care of them. I've had a couple of clients recently that I have lost. I say lost in they've moved on to a higher plane, as some people like to say, and been in contact with their family members that are still with us. And so it's good to know that, and try to make sure that my clients know that I do care. And it hits, it's like losing a friend, losing a family member that somebody you knew, somebody you talked to on numerous occasions, and then now they're no longer here to talk to. So, and of course, my pain is nowhere near that family member's pain, but we do understand, and I'm sure all my listeners, we've all lost somebody, whether it's a parent, a sibling, an aunt, uncle, grandparent, a child. And I've experienced all of those. So, if you just ever need somebody to talk to about, hey, what did you do when this hit you? So, I can be there for that. I don't have to, I don't want to only time I'm talking to you trying to sell you something, but I'm also not going to skip an opportunity of when I think there's some other protection that you should consider that I can maybe help you out with that too. So we want to make sure that our clients are covered and don't go bankrupt because of a health situation. Nobody, as I said in the first half there, nobody wants to get the ugly C diagnosis, but we don't have any control over that. If it happens, it's going to happen. But we can be prepared for it. It's just the same thing like with our homeowners or our car insurance. thunderstorm comes in and rips your roof off. Well, hopefully you had insurance that'll cover that. I know a lot of people, I can't imagine what's going on in, say, Nashville right now with people that had frozen pipes or had a tree fall on their house. I call it Snowmageddon. I know some other people do. I don't know, it was Winter Storm Ryan or something. Or Aaron, or I can't remember what the name of the storm was. Did it have a name? I always think of storms as hurricanes, the only thing having names, but they've been naming these winter storms too. But I'm sure there's a bunch of insurance claims going on because of busted water pipes and such. There's insurance claims because you were driving on the ice and you ran into somebody else, or you ran into a mailbox and now you got to fix your car. There's all kinds of things like that are going to happen, and you're going to be thankful you had insurance when that happens. We don't like paying our insurance. It's like I pay my car insurance religiously, and I'm trying to think. I think my wife a couple times has used it to repair some chips in the windshield. We replaced a couple of windshields and didn't put it on insurance, but the insurance, it's like if you have a chip, they want you to get the chip repaired because they don't want to pay for a windshield. So you don't have to worry about the deductible if you have a chip. I learned that from insurance agent, what we call PNC, property casualty agent. I don't do home or auto. I do health and life. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up. I got a few minutes here. One of the things that came out of this conference is I'm thinking about maybe doing some rebranding with my company name. Right now, it's just Matt Libby Insurance, and then kind of a subtitle is Matt Libby Insurance, Health, Life, and Medicare. Well, one of the things that the leader of the training that I went to had, he had his name, and it was agency, and he changed it. Now it's his name, Health and Wealth, and at one time it was Health and Retirement, and I've toyed with the retirement part. I think I like the retirement better than the Health and Wealth, other than they rhyme, so it can be catchy. But one of the things is with using my name, I decided when I was going to go independent that I wanted to brand myself, that I'm the guy that's here that can help you. I want you to know my name. I want you to recognize me from ads or billboards and give me a call when you need help with that health insurance or Medicare or life insurance. But I've also found it's a two-edged sword. Everybody that calls the office thinks they have to talk to me, and you don't. Now, granted, if you started out with me, yes, we've built a relationship, so you have that personal relationship with me. But I'm not the only person in the office that can help you. And in fact, actually, Amy's been a big help, and she's not an agent. But she hears the answers I give, or she tells me, hey, so-and-so called. This was their question. I told them this, but I told them you may have to call them back and straighten them out. But I told them I think it's this, and I can say, oh, yeah, you can let them know that you were right. I confirmed that you could do that. Or of course, Elijah's there as an agent. He's not always in the office, but he can work from wherever he wants. And then there's Bree and Kalia still are both, they're both available to reach out to. They're not in the office, but you can still message them. And if you worked with them in the past, yes, that's who I'd like you to continue to work with. We all can help you. We can answer your questions. One of the things I want to do is grow, and that's one of the things out of this conference I went to is about growing. And one of the things that I enjoy about having my insurance business, I started in it. I was an independent agent. I did everything. I had all my own paperwork, my own phone calls. Everything was done. All my client conversations, contact, that was all me. But one of the things I've really enjoyed over the last couple of years is having employees. And I know some of you that have business, like, oh gosh, I wish I didn't have employees. If I could, I miss the days when it was just me. But there's also that benefit. Like I said, I get to help people. Some of the thing with the health insurance or, protecting against that catastrophic loss because I was able to help put a cancer plan or a health plan or your Medicare coverage or life insurance in place. And I say life insurance, sometimes life insurance we'll pay things, and you don't have to die to cash in on it. So that's maybe a topic for another show. But I've been able to employ people. So I've provided jobs. They're not the greatest. They're not high-paying jobs. I have to be able to afford to keep the lights on in the business and keep those people employed. So, and I want to grow. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. I'm hoping if I go down this track that I'm looking at right now, I probably will be hiring some more people, some agents, but not just agents. I probably will need some more support staff as we get a little bit bigger to handle more of the day-to-day things. The customer service, the claims processing, the appointment setting, all that stuff, we're going to need other people too. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully being able to add some people. And if you know someone that maybe would like to get into the insurance business or would like to know what it entails of being a health, life, and Medicare insurance agent, have them give me a call. It might not be right away, but maybe somebody's been looking for an exit strategy from the job that they have. And there's things you can do part-time, there's things you can do full-time. So there are other options there. Basically, right now, what I'm looking for is probably someone that would be a 1099 employee. They'll be a independent contractor from me, and I don't know, get too much detail there, but you work when you want to work. If you don't work, you don't get paid because you're not you have to write business. You have to help people get insurance plans that you can get paid on. Because that's the other thing. A lot of times, sometimes I forget to tell people, or on here, is you don't pay us for our help. The insurance companies pay us a commission based on the plan that we enroll you in, and that commission has nothing to do with how much you're paying for the insurance. They've already built that into their expense. So, I say my services and my company's services are free to you, but they're not free. We're actually getting paid for them. So, they always say, you get what you pay for. Well, you are paying for it, but we're not charging you directly for it. So you don't have to come to us and open your wallet for that. So it looks like I'm out of time here, so I need to get going. Remember, at Matt Libby Insurance, we can cover you from head to toe. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. And keep tuned in here to Grace 107.7, and we'll talk again next week.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.